So let's finish this up talking about school desegregation. You might be thinking, desegregation, what does that mean? Schools aren't segregated anymore. Well, think about schools in our college district. They are filled with mostly little white children. There are some pockets of school that are more integrated and have black and brown children, but that's not the typical case around here. Think about, get in your mind, urban schools and the children that go to school there. Our schools are more segregated now racially than right around, think about the 1950s, 1960s. Segregation is happening again. And it's all based upon where people live and where people are populating and living at. And it's been found that minority children perform better academically when they're placed into desegregated middle schools. These desegregated classrooms must have an atmosphere of respect and acceptance. It leads to better racial and ethnic relationships, and American schools are not desegregated. 75% of Black students are in predominantly minority classes. Our schools are more segregated than they are integrated, sadly. So how do we help this? How, when minority children are going to these K through 12 systems that are segregated and they're in poor school systems, how can we help? Well, one thing is compensatory education, like Head Start, where children are learning about how to be social. They're learning academics. They're learning about motivation and attitude through preschool programs. When people's communities are helping with the decision-making process in school districts, that helps school systems. And private schools popping up in these poor neighborhoods is also helping to increase the outputs from school systems. They're shown to produce high student achievement levels in math and vocabulary. So those are some ways we're trying to combat education inequality. Here, just Head Start, community involvement in private schools is what helps promote education equality. And the last theory is symbolic interactionism. These where our schools are in the business of transmitting culture, and we've already talked about that already. So remember, symbolic interactionism is that process of we learn about symbols, behaviors, and trends, and how we teach that to future generations. We're basically teaching the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is a variety of non-academic values, norms, and beliefs and attitudes that children are taught in school. They learn about discipline, order, being cooperative, and about conforming and all being the same. Think about the textbooks that children are using in school. Who is writing the textbooks? What's included in the textbooks? What history do they highlight? Do they highlight the history of all different types of people, or do they focus on predominantly one group of people? Courses in government and history favor a particular view of history. Who's writing that history? Whose thoughts are included in that? Typically, most textbook authors and publishers are white men. So think about what type of perspectives are more likely to make it in those history books. Remember when I told you in the first few weeks of class about my experience about learning about Rosa Parks? And when I was a child, I was learning how Rosa Parks was a tired woman who was on her way home from work. And then I learned in college that that's not really how it happened. How did that end up in the textbooks and why? So these are all things to think about what is being taught in our school systems. Think about the teachers. Teachers are our children's first authority figures other than family. They have so much influence on children. Think about the kids that you've talked to that go to their first kindergarten or first grade class and how they look up to their teacher. Remember that looking glass concept, how you change yourself based upon how others perceive you. our children are changing themselves and portraying something of what their teachers want to see. There's a self-fulfilling prophecy where expectation leads to behavior that causes the expectation to become a reality. Meaning, if a child gets labeled as a troublesome student or a problem maker or not doing well, that label is going to follow them, which will then make the reality come true that that's who they are. And research shows that children adjust their performance and self image to meet adult expectations. Those students who are placed in lower level classes form the belief that they cannot excel beyond that. And finally, our education system reinforces gender expectations. Girls will be girls and boys will be boys. Girls are expected to be quiet, sit there, be patient, follow the rules, and a lot of times boys aren't punished or aren't given the same criteria, or it's okay if they act out or are more rambunctious. So I'm going to end this one a little bit early, and then we're going to go and talk about higher education today.